Hey, it's BT Tales from a Gemini. This episode is with Lewis Duncan from Autosport magazine. And Lewis, we had a conversation before. He's like a across the pond version of me. He likes metal and he likes motorsports, especially MotoGP. And we get to talk, and he just got a girlfriend, and I asked him about his girlfriend. The funny thing is watching him stutter like a 14-year-old who's in love. And Lewis is a shy guy. He can play guitar, but man, you could tell when I asked him about his personal life. That was the funny part. But we get in depth with MotoGP, maybe a little more technical than I wanted to, but it's all about GP. We also talked about what the MotoGP Unlimited series is going to do hopefully for MotoGP, the same thing as it did for F1. So always, it's fun episodes, and just watching Lewis stutter when it comes to his girlfriend and him being in love. I think you'll enjoy this episode. So enjoy Lewis Duncan. Isn't this great? I mean, seriously, I told this guy an hour, yeah, it's gonna be an hour later, but it's actually, earlier than he knew. So I had to make him finish work early and do this show. Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini, and it's MotoGP season, so you know what that means. I'm geeking out, and I'm talking to anybody who knows MotoGP just so I could talk to them. I have nobody to talk to here. And my guest now, I thought we were getting a band together. I thought we were going to be like in a rock and roll band together, singing nothing but Iron Maiden, drinking goat's blood, and, sacrificing animals and just going around the countryside until the weekend comes. Then we go see MotoGP races, and then we, sacrifice more animals and drink more goat's blood. But this guy gets a girlfriend, and now he acts like he doesn't know me anymore. But I'm going to see if, we can talk to GP and talk about his latest endeavor in life. How you doing, Lewis Duncan from the international editor from Autosport magazine? How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, BT. How are you? It's nice to be back. It's a lot's changed since the last time I was on your show.
I know you're all cocky now. Like, yeah, a lot's changed, BT. I got a girlfriend now, so hey. Lewis is all smooth now. I got a girlfriend now, bro. So you can just not call me anymore.
Nah, never. Well, yeah, it's not just that. I've moved country. Well, I say moved country. I moved across the border. So, it's all change in the Duncan household.
You moved in with your girlfriend, didn't you?
Yeah, we got a flat in Manchester. We moved in last week. In fact, last Friday was our move-in day. And typically 2 days later, I got COVID. So it's been a crazy old week.
I hope that's not a bad omen. You know what I mean? As soon as you move in, you get
COVID. No, I don't think so. I think the house has been blessed all right because Megan, my girlfriend, said the first song she listened to when she got into the flat was Tom Sawyer. So,
Look at you. Always keeping it metal, bro. That's what I love about you. Always keep it metal. Honestly, and the great thing about it is, if you guys know Lewis, his Instagram handle is lduncan666. Last night, I went to go see the movie Studio 666. Thought of you the whole time. It's about the Foo Fighters, and it's a cheesy movie. But you know what? It's cheesy. It's bad. It's that good cheese where you go, this cheese is delicious. And if you really like metal and you like shit like that, I don't know if you remember Kiss's Phantom in the Park. Do you remember that movie Kiss did?
Yeah.
Fucking horrible, right?
Yeah.
It was horrible. And it's along the lines of that. And you remember the Monkees? Hey, we're the Monkees. Remember?
Yeah.
It's like the Monkees meets Phantom in the Park, but it's better than all those two combined. But it's still bad, but it's still pretty damn good. There's a song they play, and I mean, it fucking rocks. And I thought of you the whole time because Dave Grohl is rocking. I'm like, Lewis would love this. I'm in the theater by myself rocking, going, Lewis would love this, man. So I thought
I have wanted to see it. It does look quite good. I do like Dave Grohl. I think he's a pretty sound guy.
Well, here's what you do. You and your new girlfriend, God, I'm so jealous. You and your new girlfriend, you go get knackered at a bar, right? Go see the movie, then go back to your flat, and then you both play bass together, and then just fall asleep in each other's arms, how lovers do, I guess. But yeah, it's the kind of movie that if you get drunk or whatever and you watch, you'll probably laugh. And there are some fun scenes. And if you really know metal, it goes along with the metal and the Satan thing, and so it's kind of funny in that way. But I think you'd like it.
Yeah. So it does definitely sounds like something I would definitely dig.
Yeah, I know you would. Hey, I didn't know you were an Offspring fan also.
Yeah. I'm sort of that sort of child of the Tony Hawk generation, so that kind of music is something that appeals to me quite a lot. And we it was a last minute thing. There was still tickets, and we were going to be in Glasgow, so I was like, well, let's go see them, and it was great fun.
How, were they good?
Yeah, they really, really were good. I was surprised isn't the right word, but it was a lot better a show than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Yeah. That was great fun. Played all the hits, just played some of the new stuff. The new album's great. New album sounds great. The new one they did, it was a good fun night.
I was gonna ask you, do you get any new stuff? Because I mean, well, last time we talked, it was pretty much centered on like, even though it was Maiden, even new Maiden or whatever, but it's sitting around basically the old stuff. Do you get into any new bands? Like sometimes like you need a little new impetus to really appreciate the rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, there's new stuff that comes out every now and again. There's a cool band out of Mexico called The Warning. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're pretty cool. They do quite hard sort of just good hard rock. Really, it's pretty good stuff. There's always good stuff I hear on the radio by like the Cadillac 3 seems to get played on the radio over here a lot, and they sound really cool.
Where are they from? Where are they from?
I want to say Texas or one of these places, or a kind of southern rock band, and we've got a couple of bands over here. I don't know how new they are, to be fair. They're just sort of new to me, but there's, things like Chris Barris band, you got Phil Campbell and his Bastard Sons. Obviously Phil Campbell from Motorhead. So there is new stuff, but I still sort of gravitate towards the old stuff.
Yeah, I know you do. I try, I on purpose, I have to listen on purpose to new stuff, just so I don't feel like a relic. You know what I mean? But there's something about hearing those old, and I've always liked Rush. Don't get me wrong, but I never really was that big into Rush. I liked them, never was. And for some reason, Saturday night, Tom Sawyer came on, and dude, it hit different for some reason. I don't know why, but I was like, oh yeah, because I remember my friends liked Rush, and I was like, okay, they're cool. I never disliked them. I always thought Working Man was the shit. I really did, like that dum bum 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 bum. I like that, but I was like, okay, Rush, but man, for some reason, Saturday night and Tom Sawyer came on, and I was geeking on it, man. Air drums and everything, bro. I mean, I was doing it, yeah. So for some reason, but I like to get like Seether. You like Seether?
I've heard of Seether. I can't tell you if, not knowingly. I don't know if I've heard any of the stuff. I might have heard it on the radio, but I have heard of Seether.
Okay. Well, you should come down to Austin, and we'll go and listen to some music. Some metal.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because hopefully I will be at the MotoGP in Austin next month, pending my visa application, which I have on Friday, my meeting for, my interview for. So hopefully I can get that and finally get back to a MotoGP paddock after 2 very long years.
Why would they not let you in, Lewis? I mean, you're one of the greatest guys ever. Why would they not let you in?
Well, I mean, I don't see any reason for them not to let me, and I haven't committed any, terrorisms or anything like that. So,
but don't say it like that when you go to the meeting. Don't say it. I haven't committed terrorisms yet. And they go, "What's with the yet?" Uh-oh, and then you get denied.
So. It's never say never, in it,
He said, "Never say never." Yeah, don't say that at the meeting. Don't say, "I want you to come to Austin. We'll have a great time, man. I'm looking forward." And you gonna bring your girlfriend?
No, it's just be me. It's a working trip, so not too much time for sightseeing, I'm afraid. But I'm sure we'll be able to squeeze in. Yeah. Certainly a couple of trips out, I'm sure, in the evening after track action. I'm assuming you're going to be down there as well.
That is the plan, dude. I honestly, it's the best of both worlds. I know what you're talking about. You're so tired in that weekend, and you're, like I said, you're working. I mean, I work, but it's like shits and giggles for me, But I'm working, and I love. I don't know if you're like me, but I love getting there before Moto 3 FP1 starts. I love getting there and getting your coffee or your tea, because you're across the pond and getting your coffee and your tea, and just letting it all like eventually happen organically. And you wake up and then you hear that sound of FP3. I call them the bumblebees when they come out on the track, and you watch them. And so at the end of the day, I think Moto America is going to be there. So I got to watch that. I want to watch a little bit of that in the evening. And so I don't be a jerk about it. That is the American, race series. I want to watch a little bit of that. But then you get back to the hotel and you're so tired, then you got to, get dressed and you go to eat dinner. By the time you get through eating, it's at least, 8 or 9, and you're tired, man. So that's the plan going in. I want to take you someplace and get some, good Mexican food, get some tacos in you, so we can talk face to face, bro. And just everything, man. I'm so looking forward to meeting you face to face. That's going to be great. But I want to know, first of all, before we get into the GP stuff, before we geek out and everything, how did you meet your girlfriend? That's what I want to know.
Well, we work together. We have the same job essentially, so that's how we met, and things kind of took off from there, really.
Well, don't try to look. Try to well, we work together. Next thing you know, Jed's a millionaire. No, I mean, like, I mean,
Well, it was one of those things where we kind of knew each other for a few months and then just started talking more and more. It was really, funnily enough, when Iron Maiden's new album came out, that was kind of, we started. I just got a message one day from her, about, she'd listened to the album she'd listened to the album. She never heard Iron Maiden before, and then that was kind of started.
Look at you. It's funny to watch you. I know, I think I'm embarrassing you because you're kind of stumbling over your words. Like, well, Iron Man didn't bad. Then we were moving in to Manchester. Louis, you're great. So Iron Maiden basically gets you guys together.
Yeah, pretty much. Our first sort of, she came up to Glasgow for a couple of days, and then the first time I came down to Manchester, our first sort of official date was to Nico McBrain's Drum One shop in Manchester.
Look at you, got that, man. So Maiden and motorsports got you guys together.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the two things that kind of sparked it off, really. And now we're almost 5 months down the line, and we live in a nice new flat together.
Look, well, you worked fast there, Duncan. Look at, you know what? It's him playing guitar. She saw him playing guitar, and she knows how he writes, and she's like, I like this guy. And next thing you know, look at you. 5 months later, you got COVID, and you moved in together.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't on my bingo card. That's for sure. I didn't expect any of that to happen, but I'm sure glad it did. Apart from the COVID, obviously, I could have done without that.
Hey man, honestly, I give you shit, man, but that's beautiful. I mean, I really is. I was telling my producer Wyatt, I said, you know what's great, man, is that like, having somebody like what you like, because what we like is neat, it's like a neat sport, especially over here also, it's like everybody's football, basketball, whatever. And I just love motorsports so much. So to have a woman that you're attracted to and she likes what you like and she's in the same profession you are, and you could talk that, so it doesn't look like you're trying to hit on her. So it's like professional, like, so what's going on? Who's the new driver in Formula 2 and Formula 3? And you get that kind of going. And like, we should go talk about it over some fish and chips at the pub. And the next thing you know, it looks professional. So if she turns you down and go, well, it was just a work lunch. I mean, God, so then you start working. Then, well, when metal comes in, well, there you go.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely very, very lucky.
So do you fall asleep like to Iron Maiden? Do you guys like put some Iron Maiden on and fall asleep to Hallowed Be Thy Name?
Yeah, that's a white noise machine is, Hallowed Be Thy Name and The Trooper.
Greatest, man. I'm giving you shit, man, just because.
No, not at all.
But I'm so happy for you. I really am. I mean, I'm happy for her. I thought we were gonna have a band together, but she's our Yoko Ono. She broke us up, but it's okay, man. I'll get over it.
No, it's just, well, like I say, at the weekend I think we're gonna make an investment in a bass guitar, so that we might have a bass player for the band. So
that'd be great, man. And you know what? You two should do videos together playing. How great would that be?
Well, yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Yeah,
I would love that, man. I would love that. So anyway, enough of the personal life. I want to have you stuttering anymore. Let's get on the GP, because when this airs, it should be next week. So Mandalika should be race weekend, Mandalika race weekend. So after Qatar, what's your takeaway from Qatar? Like, who were the winners and losers other than Inaya Bastianini?
Yeah, I mean, Qatar is always a really hard one to sort of read into because it's such a weird, it's not a weird track, but it's just unusual. Night race, the conditions are always a bit funny. And what we saw in Qatar was not what we expected to see, particularly with Ducati. Mm-hmm. We expected Ducati and Pecco Bagnaia and Jack Miller to go there. And even, Jorge Martin on the Pramac bike to go there, be quick. Obviously Martin was pole position, but they had an absolute nightmare. Nothing went right for them. Jack had his technical problems. All of the 2022 spec Ducatis were just not very competitive, and no one's really sure why. Bagnaia spoke about the fact that he's been trying too many different things on the bike. He's been testing too much, he's been developing too much, and he's not been able to focus on his feelings. But it's such a surprise because they ended last year so strong, and even in the Jerez test after the season, I asked Pecco, I said, you said this 2021 bike is perfect. And he said, well, we've been able to improve on that. It's an even more perfect bike. And we thought, this is going to be the year of Ducati. Mm-hmm. What we didn't expect was the 2021 Ducati to go and win the Grand Prix. It's such a strange kind of, just a strange turn of events that the old bike has been. Obviously, the old bikes fully developed, and Bastianini's been able to just ride it. He's not developed it. He's not done anything like that. He's just been able to find his base settings and ride the bike, and that's helped, and it will help for a few rounds. But it wasn't a great look for Ducati to have the old bike just be so dominant. It wasn't as if it was a little bit quicker than the 2022 bikes. It was miles quicker.
Well, you know what I found? I don't know about you. I mean, this isn't much of a dork I am. I don't know if you watch it like I do. I swear to God, when it's the start of the race, I go like this, and I'm looking. I go like this, and I'm watching. And when I do that, I don't know why, but it helps me get into it. It sounds weird, but it helps me get into the race. So when I'm doing like this, I'm seeing from the camera angle that I'm watching who's gonna jump, who gets the better start. And I don't know if you watched it, but for some reason, it was like some kind of force came, and all the Ducatis had a weird start. Like Martin almost ran into whoever it was. It wasn't Marquez, but he almost ran into somebody. Like, he didn't get it right. And then I think Jack had a weird jump. Like, all the Ducatis started really weird at the very jump. I mean, Marquez had a pretty decent start. Obviously, Spargo did. And I think that's who Martin almost ran into in the beginning. So did you notice that at the start that they started off weird?
Yeah, well, I think all the 2022 bikes lost 6 places from their starting positions for some reason. We know they've got all the start systems, the launch control systems, and the whole shot devices. And we know Ducati have been playing with a new kind of front whole shot device, although as I understand it, Pecco took that off his bike because he just didn't like the feeling of it. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe they've been playing around with the starting devices and it's not quite worked. It was odd, and we've never seen that from Ducati before, really, because they're always the best starters. If you think back to last year, the first Qatar race, Jorge Martin went from 14th to 4th on the bike that obviously Bastianini won on this year. So it was odd. And we knew coming into the season, that we didn't know really where Ducati was with the new bike. And we suspected things were a little bit odd when before the weekend, Pecco and Jack switched to a 2021 hybrid engine. They didn't have the full 2022 spec, and they spent all weekend playing it down. It's the best package for us, this, that, and the next thing. But clearly something was wrong with the 2022 bike. We know it was quite aggressive. And we seen that with the Pramac riders, that you could see them spinning out of corners. You could see them spinning more. They couldn't quite put the power down in the way that a Ducati always has been able to. But this shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened that they had such a bad start, and they've had such a, I don't know if difficult winter is the right way to put it, but they had not the preseason we expected, because they have 8 bikes. They have 8 pools of data to look at and to develop the bikes. That's the whole point of having 4 teams, essentially, for Ducati, is to use that to make the perfect bike. And it almost looks like that's become a problem, because all the riders are all doing different things, and it's backfired a little bit.
I thought maybe it's a sense of the mad scientist in a way. They've had so much technology. I mean, if you look at what MotoGP has done in the development of the bikes through the years, Ducati, and especially since Gigi's gotten there, their development to the bikes, I mean, think about it. I think first came the wings, at least for me. First came the wings, and then I think they experimented with the rear brake, with the thumb rear brake. And it's like they're always trying to do something different, but maybe it's gotten to the point, and I'm just talking out of my ass, but maybe it's a sense of like, where it's like it's too much, because I found it funny how during the press conference, they asked Marquez, like, is there too much electronics? And I think Jack mentions this also in the podcast he did with the Gypsy Tales. Is it too much electronics? And it's funny how Marquez said, we don't need, I think it was ride height. It was something ride height or whatever. And then here comes the race, and it's like that technology kind of bit him in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, Gigi Dell'Igna has been obviously really brilliant for Ducati in terms of the way he's made the kind of race department work, and his innovations have moved things on. And the whole 8 bike thing, again, is something that kind of, it's not new to Ducati. They did that a few years ago, back in 2015 and 16. They had 8 bikes for the same purpose, to help development. But I guess the game's moved on a lot now. You've got such a competitor. There's no bad bikes on the grid anymore. They're all fast bikes. They all are capable of getting on the podium. They're all capable, I think, of winning races. Yeah, we still need to see what the Aprilia can do, but I believe it can win a race. So the margins are much smaller now than they used to be to make a jump. You're talking about making a lap time gain of half a tenth now with the development, not 1, 2, 3 tenths anymore.
Yes.
It's so tight. And and this is something I think actually Paul Espargaro spoke about last year with the Honda.
Yeah.
The problem he had a lot at the start of the season was the fact that he had no real reference because all the Honda riders were using different things. They were using different chassis. They were using different settings. And it was just confusing the whole thing. KTM were the same thing. Brad Binder said in the winter that they changed the approach because KTM used to bring so much stuff. They used to bring lots of developments and it was too easy for the rider to get lost.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe what we're seeing with, and they've changed that. So I think that's what we're seeing now with Ducati is they've got too much going on and all the riders are doing different things because there's 3 engine specifications. They've got 2 specs of bike.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 specs of bike, really, if you take into consideration that Pecco and Jack are on the 2022 spec bike with a 2021-2022 hybrid engine. Then you've got the 2 Pramac bikes that are on a full 2022 spec bike, as was intended by Gigi.
Right.
Then you've got Luca Marini's also on the full 2022 bike, and then the other Ducati riders, Bastianini, Fabio Di Giannantonio, and Marco Bezzecchi, are all on the 2021 bike. So there is 3 specs of Ducati out there, and they're all doing different things. And I think this is where the problems come from. I think Ducati have gotten themselves lost.
Yeah, it's a little too much, I think. But look what Bastianini did last year on a 2-year-old bike. And, I think it got lost with everything going on last year. It was crazy last year and Rossi's last year and this isn't going on. But amidst all that confusion and turmoil, whatever, Bastianini was in the top 6 for the last, how many races? With the last 9 or was the last 5 at least?
Yeah. Well, let's take nothing away from Bastianini. He is clearly on what is probably the best package right now, which is the fully developed 21 Ducati. But he is a great rider. His racecraft was never in doubt last year. His qualifying always let him down. But you look at Misano 1, he came from 12th to 3rd. Misano 2, he came from 16th to 3rd.
Yes.
He went from 16th to 6th in Austin. He was 18th to 10th or something like that, or 18th to 8th in Valencia. His racecraft has never been in doubt. And this is something we saw in his Moto2 days as well. He was quite inconsistent in Moto3.
Yes.
But when he jumped to Moto2, instantly he was quick on the bigger bike. And he probably would have had more podiums in that first year in 2019 had he not had, I think it might have been with Luca Marini. He had a crash and injured himself in Austria.
Yes. That big crash, one where everybody crashed, that scary one. Yes.
Yeah, and I think I think that really hindered him. And then the following year, obviously, he went and won on championship in Moto2. And then in MotoGP, he was kind of general. Had it not been for Jorge Martin, we would have all been looking at Bastianini as the second coming because he was really, really good. It was just the fact that Martin was obviously winning races and having more kind of standout results early on. But of course, they were on 2 different bikes. They were on the bikes with 2-year age gaps. So now that Enea is on this fully developed 21 bike, he's spoken about how it's safer to ride. He can make mistakes on it and not be punished for that. It's just an easier bike to ride, and his own riding style as well. I think he hammers the front a lot. I think he really understands the front end of the Ducati. In many ways, it's a little bit like Pecco. The reason Pecco was so strong on the bike was because he can understand how to ride it, how to ride the Ducati style, let's say. And I think Bastianini understands that as well. He's got a great team behind him. The Gresini team is a great team. It always has been a great team. We haven't seen that over the past 7 years because really it's been the Aprilia team run by Aprilia just out of Gresini box. But we talk about, Ducati had problems and he's on a better bike right now because it's old and it's developed, but you still need to be a good rider to do what Bastianini did. And the way he managed the race and
beautiful.
It was great. And he made a late call to switch tires. He was going to go for the soft, went for the medium tire instead, the medium rear tire, and that paid dividends.
Yes.
He saw there was a point in the race where Paul Espargaro was about a second clear, and Bastianini saw he had to get past Binder and did it straight away, and then absolutely decimated Paul's gap. And the way he rode the race and even managed the last lap as well when he was getting caught by Binder was the mark of a MotoGP rider that knows how to do his job properly. It's a guy that will be quick all season.
That was beautiful. I mean, for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know the ins and outs like you do. That's why when I do these, it's more about the human condition and this and that. Everything else except the technical factors, but I know a little bit. And I know by watching, I was like, when Marquez chose the softs, and I knew Bastion was on the mediums. And, sometimes Mark can play the game like, okay, I'll let him get about 2 seconds ahead, and then I'll show him who Big Daddy is. Well, then, he started dropping back, and then Bastion's on the mediums. I go, oh, here we go. And the way he sucked those guys up, he knew he had to get by Bender. He got by Bender. And then Paul was just, man, he was doing everything he could to keep that lead, and you knew it was coming. And he went past him. But to me, the surprising thing was watching Bender come back and almost catch him. If they would have had another lap, it would have been done.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to see two things that stood out about that. First of all, KTM they appear to have got the bike right. Qatar's always been a bad circuit for that bike. I think the best result before Sunday was 8th.
Yeah.
Bender, we always say if Bender figures out qualifying, he will be there in the race, because he's like Valentino Rossi in many ways. He's a Sunday man. He's maybe not the most outstanding of qualifiers, but as long as he's there or thereabouts, then he can pull it out on Sunday. KTM have fixed the bike. We know Brad's a great rider, and he has a bike that he can ride now. He says he can corner better. He can actually release the brake and just let the bike glide, which he couldn't do in the old bike. They've clearly worked a little bit more, and they still need to work to get it fully to work for them, but they can use softer tires a little bit better now. They know that was a key problem last year, is that the soft tires were just too bad too weak for the KTM. But they figured these things out, and Brad, I think we still need to see a few more races to see truly where KTM is, but I think Brad will. There's just that sense about Brad, like we saw in 2020 in his rookie season, when he was winning, 3 races in, when he was generally just very, very competitive on Sundays. He might have been slow on a Friday, but come Sunday, he was right there. And I think we're going to see that more. And if he can figure out qualifying, very much like Bastianini, who figured out qualifying, if they can do that more, those are guys that will be properly scary every single race weekend.
Well, Qatar to me is like it's like being on vacation. Qatar is like, on vacation you get drunk every day or whatever. You do things you wouldn't normally do. You go pee in the ocean or whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't normally do that in your house. Like, I hope you don't. And then it's like, then the rest. Then when you go back home, then you get that little routine, and that's what I feel like the first 3 or 4 races are. Qatar, you're under the lights. And even though it's the desert, it's a little tricky because, they started a little bit earlier this year. And last year they dealt with the dew that was coming. Then, for some reason, 2 or 3 years ago, they had that, that freak sandstorm or whatever. So even though it's the desert, there's always those weird things going on with Qatar. And I think we won't really know the true measure of the championship, at least I feel, until they get to Europe, they do the European rounds. I think the first 4 rounds are going to be for everybody like, look who's, and then I think they're just going to wait. They just keep it rubber side up, get the points, and wait. And I just felt like Mark was holding his tongue to I'm sure it burned him up inside for Mark to finish 5th, and he had to just but I just feel like he knew that track wasn't going to be his, and he goes, just get the points, and then when it comes down to at least Coda and afterwards, then you'll see the real Mark. I mean, that's the way I felt.
Yeah, it's Mark was surprising because I fully expected him to win that race.
Me too.
The way he was talking, he always talks down his chances. He was like, "Oh, I don't think maybe a podium, but I don't feel ready." And we're like, "Well, the race pace is quite good, Mark. So I think you're not. I think you're talking a little bit of shit there, but but he yeah." We can't forget that this 2022 Honda is so different. It is the most radical change Honda have made for a long, long time on a bike, because they had to, because Mark's injury problems, in 2020 and 2021 showed that they just couldn't continue as is. Paul was struggling too much. The LCR riders were not fast. Yeah. They needed that change. And there was a risk in doing that, though. There's always a risk because, yes, the bike was difficult, but Mark could ride it, and he always could ride it. He always got the best out of it. Even in 2019 and 2018, you look at guys like Pedrosa, like Lorenzo, who really struggled in those final years. Yeah. Mark was able to dominate those championships, but Honda had no choice but to do something. And in changing the bike to a more rear bias bike to kind of cure the traction problems they had. They've taken away something from the front end, and that was obviously Mark's strong point.
Yeah,
Was the front end, the way he could hammer the front end. He had such good front end feeling. All winter, he's kind of been getting used to that fact. And let's not forget, he's only had 5 days on the bike. He didn't do the tests in November last year because he had the vision problems.
yeah.
So he's had less time than some of the other Honda riders. The bike is very good. We know the new Honda is great. Paul showed that all winter. It has just looked like a really, really good bike. And even watching the Qatar weekend, you could see how much tighter it cornered. It just looked like a much better handling motorcycle than a Honda has done for a long, long time. But Mark needs to figure out the front end, and this is why he went for the soft front tire in Qatar, which is something we never see Honda riders in general do, but it's something we never ever see Mark do. But he knew it was the only option he had because he tried the medium and he thought it was okay in warm up, but he had a crash. And that gave him a little bit of doubts, and he thought, well, I still don't understand the limit of the front, so I need a tire that I know will work, which is a soft.
Yeah.
And he still needs to figure these things out. But the fact he came away with a 5th and only just missed the podium, despite not fully understanding the bike, is a very, very key sort of sign that Marc Marquez is back. And Mandalika, I think we'll see Mark a lot stronger because he was generally quite happy there with the bike. I think he'll be strong there. I think Argentina, he's always been quick there. Kota, you can never rule out Mark for that. But I think over the next few races, Mark is going to understand this bike more, and he will. We will see the old Mark back this year, I think.
But what do you think is going to happen? Because I'm going to go on a limb and say Espargaro might be his strongest teammate ever. Because when he got Danny was on a little bit on the downslope. I think the first year he was there, Danny was strong, and then Mark kind of did a job on him in Aragon, and he clipped his the traction control device.
Yeah.
And so. Am I out of line here saying that maybe Paul might be his strongest teammate ever? And if Paul gets that confidence the next 2 or 3 races and he finishes maybe if he gets podium the next 2 or out points Mark, I wonder how it's going to go mentally for Mark. I mean, because we've never really seen a teammate push him like this.
No, we haven't. I mean, and Mark's had great teammates. Danny you can never take anything away from Danny Pedrosa on just how good a rider he was. In 2014, he had all the arm pump problems. And then in 2015, he spent the first half recovering from that.
Right.
Then in 2016, the tail of Danny Pedrosa is an unfortunate one because the switch to Michelin tires really should have been Danny Pedrosa's time because it was finally taken away. The Bridgestone tires beforehand, they were all about the front end. You had to really abuse the front end, and that just wasn't Danny's style. The key strength Danny had was that he could get the bike picked up super quickly and just get on the gas. And that's what the Michelin tires, they are more rear biased now, but that was what they were supposed to be really about in 2016. But in the preseason and the early season, they had 2 massive failures and then changed the construction of the tires, and that was kind of that was it for Danny Pedrosa. There was no more after that.
That was so hard to watch. That was so hard to watch. I mean, because it's almost like in The Predator when Jesse Body Ventura gets killed and the guy Bill Duke goes, "Ain't no way for a soldier to die." You know what I mean? And I just felt that way for Danny, man. Like your heroes never go out the way you want them to. Like last year with Rossi, I'm glad he got a top 10, even though it was because somebody else crashed. It doesn't matter. He still got the top 10. But you just want to see him go out on top, and it's so hard to watch that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is difficult, and a rider like Pedrosa deserved a championship. I hate saying people deserve, such and such deserved a championship, because if you don't win the championship, you don't deserve the championship. But right. Pedrosa was very, very clearly talented, and there was always a lot of bad luck hit Danny. Just some of the worst. I mean, 2010 when he was fighting for the championship, he had that crash at MOTOGP because the bike, there was a brake failure or something. There was 2012 when there was like a tire warmer got stuck on the grid at Misano, and then he ended up back of the grid, crashed into by Alvaro Bautista or Hector Barbara, and then that was the championship unraveled from there. It's stuff like that happens to absolutely no one apart from Danny Pedrosa.
I always felt like somebody had like a voodoo doll of him before the season, and they were like poking it with pins, and then for some reason he walked in front of a black cat, and then underneath the ladder, and he dropped a glass and dropped the mirror. It's like, what is he? I mean, why? I mean, it's so hard to watch because if it's up to me, I like to see everybody get a little piece of the cake, and when it boils down to it, I would love to see Danny get a championship, but would I have loved to see Danny get a championship instead of a Rossi during those years or a Cage?
Yeah.
But it's just hard to see that, man. He bowed out, and I hope he's at peace with it. He might say he is, but you just never know. I hope he's at peace with it. You know what I mean? That's what you want. I mean, I love how Casey went out. Casey basically went out a champion. I mean, I just love how gone fishing. I just remember that the board when he finished and he goes gone fishing. I just love that. And then hearing him on the Gypsy Tales podcast talk about how much anxiety he dealt with and everything he dealt with, then you almost felt sorry for, when we don't know. I don't know about you. Well, you more into the know than I am, but did you know the issues that Casey was dealing with?
Not intimately, not until obviously that podcast came out and he spoke a lot about the anxiety issues, which explains a lot about Casey. We know Casey never likes the media thing, and Casey was never afraid to say, to speak his mind, but you never, I think the anxiety thing probably linked into his dislike of the media and things like that. I just think all of it was apart from, and even the riding part, I think Casey found difficult, despite the fact he was so talented. But I suppose that's kind of, it's always the way though with people, is like with just a God-given talent like that, is they're always a little bit troubled. Casey was like that. You think, people, you think like, Gary Moore was kind of like that as well, to go for a completely different world in guitars. Gary Moore was a bit like that, someone that was so obviously talented but just never at ease and never happy. And of course, we didn't know at the time all the demons he was battling up until his death. So it's that
the genius, the suffering artist, almost like the tortured artist. Like, I'm so great, but you don't know what it's like inside here. It's like, just ride the bike, Casey, would you? And then you find out what he went through. You're like, I kind of feel like I should apologize to the guy. You know what I mean? You find out he was going through some stuff, but I mean, it's like it's almost like a joke by Mitch Hedberg. It's like, they said they wanted him to act in movies, and he goes, but I just want to be a stand-up comic. And it's like working at McDonald's. Hey, man, I just want to make Big Mac. Can you work the fries? I don't want to work the fries. I want to work and make Big Mac. And so that's what it's like. It's like, there's the media, but, man, you get to race motorcycles for a living. You know what I mean? How bad can life be? On our side, how bad can life be? You're racing motorcycles for a living, but at the same time, now you got to speak to the media. And like he said, he grew up in the Rossi years, so Rossi had the press in his back pocket. I didn't realize people were trying to yank him off the scooter as he's going to his box, and they're doing all this stuff. So he dealt with a lot, but, man, to me personally, watching Casey ride was like, you just go, oh. I don't know about you, but you just go, oh.
Casey was a special talent. I mean, it's not to, obviously he was going through what he was going through, and him retiring was obviously the best thing for him, but it's a shame he didn't stick around just that 1-2 years longer, because the plan was for Honda was to put Mark on the bike with Casey for 2013, which...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that killer lineup? I mean, that's like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, both in their primes on the same team. I mean, you're talking two killers, man. Can you imagine that box and what they would they have to separate them? Because Mark came in so aggressive, and Casey was just Casey. I mean, coming in and he'll set the lap record on his first outing, and then come back like, all right, I'm good. I'm gonna go play play PlayStation. You guys come in FP2 starts. And Mark's out there just running into people, trying to get a good lap time. Oh, I mean, the ifs and coulda, woulda, shouldas. Oh, Honda had the dream squad. Oh my God.
But going back to your original question about Paul, I think I've always believed that Paul, was capable of going to Honda and being quick. I remember speaking to him at the end of his time at KTM, and I asked him, people have been saying all year, what's it like going to face Marc Marquez? Are you scared about it? And he's like, well, honestly, no. It's, as a sportsman, it's the ultimate challenge, and so I'm looking forward to it. And we didn't get to see the best of Paul last year. The bike, he has his riding style is more tailored towards using, really hammering the rear brake on the way into the corners and using the rear. That's his whole thing, and he couldn't do it on the last year's Honda because it was just had no grip at the rear. It just wouldn't work for him. Mm-hmm. Now he's got a bike that he can do that on, and we have seen a truer version of Paul Espargaro. He is, he was quick through the preseason, and he backed that up with a really quick Qatar weekend, of course, led for 18 of those laps. And if it was just the fact they went for the softer tires, and he knew at some point those tires were going to drop away. the pace of the race was a lot quicker than he expected it to be, which was the same for everyone.
Yeah, he was the rabbit. He was the one that set the pace. I mean, for what he did, to me, that's what you do when you have those soft tires. You go, you know what? They're going to drop off eventually, so why not get the biggest lead possible and hold on for dear life?
And had someone had Bastianini maybe not cleared Binder as quick as he did, then it could have been a different story. But we've seen, I think we've seen enough from Paul that first of all he can ride this bike, and second of all that the new Honda is a bike that will be competitive in more than just Mark's hands. And Honda, that's the perfect scenario for Honda. They now look like they finally got two riders now that can ride that bike competitively, consistently, which they never had. They didn't have last year because there was a lot of problems with the bike. They didn't have the year before because, Alex Marquez was a rookie, and, Stefan Bradl was doing days and days of testing between racing, obviously while Mark was injured.
Right.
And the year before, obviously, Jorge Lorenzo had so many struggles on the bike. And the year before that, Danny had so many struggles on the bike. So Honda now finally got what I think is probably a very solid team. And, it's come at the right time as well, because I don't think Paul's under any pressure for next year. I think he will be safe in that seat because I think Honda's got eyes on Pedro Acosta. They want to see what's going to happen there.
Oh, my God. Yes.
And I think they want to get him onto a contract as soon as possible, but give him more time to develop in Moto2. But for the time being, sticking with Paul's not a bad option at all. If Paul's going to be, potentially Mark's best teammate, then, they might have a bit of a job trying to actually convince themselves to get rid of Paul, because if he ends up going on to win the championship, then they might be like, well, clearly we've got two riders now that can win the championship, so why upset that? We'll just put Pedro in LCR with the factory bike. But that's obviously a big bit of speculation that we're only one race into the year, so we can't get too deep into that just yet.
Let me tell you something. Sometime this year, maybe in the off season, look for any mass bank robberies, like at Ocean's 11. Kind of somebody's gonna knock over a casino in Monaco or Las Vegas, and they're gonna take that money and they're gonna have 3 or 4 trucks bag up to Pedro Acosta's house, and they go, "Hey, Pedro, sign with us," and that's what it's gonna be like. I sincerely believe that he's the kind of talent where you can't let him go. KTM is going to have to find a way to tunnel through a casino and get all the money possible and take it to his house.
Well, I think it'll be more like whoever is going to do it will have to rob KTM's casino, because they will have. I mean, if you look at everything that's going on with Raul Fernandez, he didn't want to race with KTM this year. He wanted to go with Yamaha and Petronas SRT, which of course has become RNF Racing. Or Razlan needs funds, as we like to take the piss about. But KTM, there was a €500,000 buyout clause with Fernandez's contract, his current KTM contract, to get him to ride for RNF. And I think I'm not incorrect in saying Yamaha was willing to put that money down, but KTM just said nope. Because it just wasn't going to happen. I think there was maybe performance clauses in there, and KTM just the KTM, the web that they weave with the riders is very, very thick. And, they are a great manufacturer, don't get me wrong, and they've done a fantastic job in bringing up young talent, because they've sort of annexed that. The Red Bull Rookies Cup is KTM. The Northern Talent Cup is KTM. So much of the Moto3 grid is KTM or badged KTM, so that your gas or your like CF Moto, for example.
Right.
And then into Moto2, you've also got that fantastic system with Aki.io, so bringing them through the Aki.io system.
Yes.
They've KTM have absolutely earned every single top talent that they bring through, because they've a lot of the times with people like Brad Binder, with like Miguel, with Raul, with Remy Gardner, Gardner to a lesser extent, but a lot of these riders, Pedro Acosta, they've started off in the very beginning of their careers with KTM and have come through the ranks with KTM, and that's something they're proud of and want to keep pushing. And so they can talk a good game about all our guys. If they don't want to be here, then we're not going to keep them to their contracts. But they know full well that if they've got a good thing, they're not going to let Honda, especially not Honda, take a rider away from them.
Why would you? Yeah. Why would you?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, CEO of KTM, Stefan Pierres, famously said when the team launched back in 2017 at the team launch event that Honda is KTM's most hated rival. there's a lot of bad blood there. It stems back to the very early days of Moto3 when, um, I think KTM or yeah, KTM came to that championship with what was essentially a full factory bike, and Honda kind of was caught out a little bit by that. And I think it just stemmed from there. Really, is that
I kind of like that.
this bad blood has continued on. So the fact that it's going to probably be Honda versus KTM for Pedro Acosta, who is very much a KTM rider, is going to be very, very interesting. But I think we do need to sort of keep our feet on the ground, because Pedro is 17 still, and
17, about to rule the world.
He's 17, and he's only done one season in Grand Prix racing. He's only just done one race in a Moto2 bike. It will take him some time to get up to speed, you know.
But even though he finished in the way he finished in Moto2, he made that mistake, but he came back through the pack the way he did, and we all know Qatar is.
He did. He did. He did do a great job, to be fair, but I think we just need to. I don't want a situation like Fabio Quartararo to happen, where we put too much pressure on this one kid's shoulders and then he just fades to obscurity. I mean, because Fabio was quite lucky in a sense that he got that Yamaha seat. And of course, now we know that it was a very inspired choice by, Wilco Zelenberg and Razzali and all those people to bring him up to SRT in 2019. But, Fabio at that point, before he'd won that race in Barcelona Moto2, was a bit of a nobody.
Man, yeah. I mean, I was feeling sorry for him, because I remember when he was in Argentina. I think it's when he made his debut. And I think he came close to a podium. I think he could have got a win. I think against Danny Kent, and Kent ended up winning the race, whatever. But it's like, this kid's gonna get it. It's gonna get it, and it never really came. And then he was having some bad crashes, and I just remember going, man, I hope it comes for this kid. And I felt so bad for him. Like you said, it was the pressure, and then he made that. It was in Barcelona, because I remember I was celebrating my birthday there, and he got the pole. He's on the front row, and he got that win. And then he signed there. I was like, what are you guys doing? He signed to MotoGP. He hadn't really done anything. He had a good 2 weeks basically, and then man, what he did was I was so happy for him. So, but for some reason, I just feel like Acosta's like, yeah, bring that pressure on. I'm ready for it. To me, it seems like, from the outside looking in, it seems like a different kind of mindset.
He is very much a kind of chill character. I remember speaking to Akiayo after Portugal last year, when obviously Pedro had won that crazy race from Qatar from the pit lane and then won in Portugal again. And I spoke to him about it, and he said, Pedro took the SIM card out of his phone because he was getting too many messages. He was getting too many messages of congratulations. So he just pulled the SIM card out of his phone. He was just like, I can't be arsed with that. I'm just gonna enjoy my week off. He doesn't really have social media. He doesn't really interact on social media as much. He's not very like a normal 17-year-old. He's very, very mature and I guess he's probably quite self-aware that he is very talented. And I think the fact that, he's obviously got quite a cushy deal with KTM. And I think he knows the fact that Honda will probably be interested in him. I think, that's the kind of thing that will please him more than anything. It'll just be like, I'm clearly doing a good job, or else these guys wouldn't be falling over themselves to try and get me on a bike. Because he does, strictly speaking, have a way into MotoGP. His current Moto2 deal, or his current KTM deal, is 3 years, I believe. And it does mean in 2024 he might or probably will step up to MotoGP with KTM. But of course, if Honda comes with millions upon millions of dollars and say, look, you can go on the bike next year, which I don't think will happen, you'd be mad not to take that if you're an 18-year-old at that point.
Well, here's something. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there, but let's just say, Honda signed Mark to the 3-year deal. And
he was on a 4-year deal at the start of 2020.
Okay, so when is his deal up?
End of 24.
Hey, what happens if they go, hey, listen, Mark, thank you for the championships. They realize he's on a downslope. Eventually you fall off. And what if they just go, thank you, Mark, we appreciate it, and they make a way for Pedro, give him all the money in the world, and Marquez he feels like he has one more good year in him. And I just feel like that what if Pedro comes in and takes Mark's seat? Okay. Honda's like, hey, we can't afford these two. We got to bring in the young talent. Thank you so much, Mark. And let's just say Mark goes, okay, KTM's where they need to be. let me get one more year. He said he didn't want to stick around like Rossi did, but I think he did that just to stick the knife into Rossi and turn it personally. But let's just say he wants one more year to show I still got it, and he wants to show he's the old guy on the grid now. What if he goes to KTM and just to show, hey, I still got it, and this kid ain't got shit on me? I mean, can you see that happening?
I don't think so. I mean, Honda are reportedly paying that the current contract Mark's on is reportedly worth 100 million euros.
Holy moly.
And as far as I'm aware, that during his injury layoff, that he said to him, look, pay me whatever, because obviously I've not been racing. There's been a pandemic. And I think Honda were quite happy to be like, no, your money's yours. There's a very deep bond between Marc Marquez and Honda for very obvious reasons. Yeah. But it's one that, Mark's always spoken about he's never had any say in his teammates and yada, yada, yada. And I think that's true. And I don't think Honda aren't going to bring Pedro Acosta in to upset Mark. What they'll do is they'll bring Pedro Acosta in, if they were to do that, to complement Mark. It'll be, Mark still has their full backing, and there's nothing to suggest to me that Mark at 29, back to full fitness, isn't going to win 4 or 5 more championships. He's probably going to beat Rossi's tally and is probably going to exceed that. I can see Mark easily winning 10 championships.
We say that, but man, it's racing. Anything can happen. I mean, who knew?
Well, exactly.
Who needs to have that double vision again last year? And that scared me again. So you just, and also it's racing, but it's also life. And life, you just never know. I mean, who saw the pandemic coming? Who saw that?
Exactly.
Coming?
Yeah.
So I mean, but man, I would love to see it happen. But I mean, you got some killers coming up, and mentally, I like what Bagnaia does, and the way Ducati's going, I can see him going for. But one thing about Bagnaia, and maybe we don't see it. There's got to be something simmering, but I don't see that. Oh, where with Mark, you see it simmering. You see him kind of like when he got beat by Renz at Silverstone when they were in that car.
You could see it, yeah.
And you could just see him just like how pissed he was and how he was trying to smile, but he could see if he was a tea kettle, like, don't touch it, it's hot. And but that's what I love. And no one to me has that other than Mark. Then maybe Fabio to an extent, but I see Pedro. I see Pedro having it. I just see Pedro having that kind of mentality, and he's kind of like when he did that to Fangio, he waved at him during that warm up, in Portimao. When he did a little wave, and Fangio was like, "What's he doing?" I like that, and I just kind of see Pedro having the same mental that Mark has. But other than that, I don't see anybody. If push comes to shove, winner take all. Which I think GP is going to be this year. I think it's going to come down to the last race of the year in Valencia, and I can easily see 3 or 4 guys. And if I had, and I'm not a betting man, but if I had money, I would put all my money on Mark because that guy will go to his grave, kicking and clawing to do what it takes to win.
I think you're right. I think Fabio does definitely have that that kind of instinct. You can see when he gets beat when he knows he shouldn't have, or he knows when he could have done better. It does. It fires him up. But I see that in Joan Mir as well, quite honestly. I think.
Yeah, I love Mir.
I think people kind of have written off Joan Mir because he won the pandemic championship, and there was so much crap that year of, it's not a legitimate championship, it's only 14 races, it's, repeat races, Mark's not there, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously last year, the Suzuki just didn't develop very much, and Mir was far away from winning the championship and never really looked like he could win the championship. But Mir rode better last year than he did when he won the championship. And, if you look at his results, they were consistent. They were just the limit of what the Suzuki could do. But now, and yes, Qatar didn't go really to plan, but, the bike is good. The new Suzuki is good. They've made a lot of gains. They've crucially done what Yamaha hasn't been able to do, which is find power from the engine without, first of all, that's the thing Yamaha hasn't been able to do, but they've done so without compromising the characteristics of the Suzuki. And all through the preseason, if you look to the fastest race pace, it was guys like Alex Rins.
Yes.
The Suzuki was right up there. And I think there's just an air about Joan this year. 2020 was one thing. He had to go and prove it again in 2021. Whether he felt like he had to or not, to all those people that said, it was a pandemic championship, blah, blah, blah. And then he didn't. And I just see he said something at the end of the last season that he kind of backtracked on, but it was very genuine. People talked about, someone asked him about, how he looked at each championship, and if people might think, it wasn't very good as a reigning champion. He said, as far as people like that just see me not winning a championship and think my season was bad, I couldn't give a shit about them. I couldn't don't care what they think. You know, he was convinced he did the best that he could. And if you actually look at the results, 100% he did. There's no doubt in that. This year, there's just a little fire behind his eyes. Just that little, I see it. You catch it every now and again when you look at him, just see there's a determination in his eyes. He knows that he's got what he wanted from Suzuki. He's got the package he wants. The team has a new team boss, and it's a team boss that takes no prisoners in Livio Stupo. It's the guy
that dude knows where the bodies are buried, you know?
Well, it's the guy that brought Casey to Honda. It's the guy that's, you know, he's very much, he knows how to run a ship. And I know there's some kind of thought, some people in Suzuki that maybe aren't happy with that. They maybe don't think he's the right person, but only time will tell that. But, you know, there's just this determination behind Joanne, and I think we will. I said this to Megan, my girlfriend, at the weekend. I think it will be Joanne versus Mark for the championship this year. There's just
that'd be beautiful. That'd be a good one, man. That'd be a great.
I think there's just something about Joanne this year that just speaks to me as this is a world champion. Or this is the world champion. This is a guy that will come out a lot stronger than a lot of people suspect or have expected. And I think we will see a much more competitive Joanne, and I hope we see a much more competitive Alex Rins as well, because I really rate Alex, but he frustrates the absolute hell out of me with the amount of crashes he does. It's the same with Maverick as well. You know, Maverick is so obviously talented.
Yes.
He's on his day. He is as quick, if not quicker, than the rest of them. There's just something within Maverick Vinales that just doesn't work, and hopefully Aprilia brings that out of him, but it's not been the easiest starts to the season, and I know he needs more time to get used to that bike.
Was that your girlfriend in the background?
No, she's disappeared through to the other room.
Was that Megan though? She had the hoodie on with the pink hoodie?
Yeah.
Tell her to come here. Tell her to come here.
Oh, she's disappeared into the other room. Hang on a minute, let me.
Megan, come here, Megan. I know. I want to see him stutter now. I want to see him stutter. He's got his girlfriend. I want to see his girlfriend. I'm gonna see who's captured my 6-string hero's heart. Look, is she saying no? Is she gonna do it? There's the woman that captured my man's heart. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, this guy, we were gonna have a band together, and the next thing you know, he's fallen in love, and it's like he doesn't talk to me anymore. I'm like, what happened? Then I see his Instagram.
It's not true.
Yeah,
that is not true.
You're the Yoko Ono that broke us up.
Yeah, not quite.
I'm just
my artistic output pales in comparison to the great Yoko Ono.
No, I'm just flipping your shit. It's so great to see. I saw you in the picture with him on his Instagram, and I was like, oh my God. I go, Lewis has a girlfriend? And now I'm so happy you guys rock and roll together. You write about motorsports together. I mean, you guys might be the perfect couple.
Well, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Could be worse.
Could be worse, yeah. It's great to meet you, by the way. I really liked the episode you did with him before. It was great.
Well, thank you so much, and it's great to meet you. I'm flattered and I'm honored, and I can't wait to meet you in person someday, hopefully.
Well, likewise, fingers crossed.
Have a good and good luck on the bass. Good luck on the bass. Good luck on the bass.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.
Okay. I think that's beautiful, man. I love to have you blushing, Lewis. That's the greatest thing in the world, man. I love it. One of us has found love, and I'm glad it's you, bro. I'm glad it's you.
Oh, I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Good for you. Hey, before we get out of here, man, what do you think MotoGP Unlimited is going to do for the series? Because what I like about you is you stand on an opinion, and I love it. And I'm a firm believer GP is so much better than Formula One, but Formula One has that seniority, and I will give them this. I will give Formula One this. They jumped on it first when the Drive to Survive came out. They jumped on it first, and people like my producer, he didn't know a goddamn thing, but his dad saw Drive to Survive. He goes, "Whoa, did you see Drive to Survive?" I go, "Yeah, man, I've been on this shit before." He go, "Man, isn't it great?" I go, "Yeah, I know." So it's gotten people like him, like I said, who don't know a goddamn thing. You got people like him interested in Formula One. So is MotoGP Unlimited, is it going to do the same thing for MotoGP?
If they market it right, if MotoGP markets it right, if if Amazon pushes it right, if it gets in front of the right people, it's not aimed at me and you. We're the diehards. We're the people that know the sport inside out. Yeah, exactly. you know, in the same way that Drive to Survive was never really aimed at us, it was aimed at, you know, people that aren't interested in it. It was aimed at them, and that's. But you know, we sat and watched the whole series. We got a link ahead of time, courtesy of Dorna. So thank you very much, Dorna Sports. So we could review it. And what struck me about it was it wears its Drive to Survive influences on its sleeve. It's very much, if you watch it and if you've seen Drive to Survive, you know, you'll see where it's takes some of its cues from. But it's a much more authentic experience. It is, you know, there's no kind of hyped up drama. There's not tried to create any silly kind of rivalries that didn't exist for drivers. They don't try and kind of fudge any of the racing. You know, there's Drive to Survive a couple of times they kind of taken artistic license with what happened in some of the races.
Right.
You know, there's one, I think the last season where Lando Norris, you know, was whatever position it was, whatever race, and we were like trying to make a big deal out of it, being, oh, it's the final lap and it's the final corner, he's been overtaken. And it wasn't the final, in real life, it wasn't the final lap, and it wasn't the fight, you know.
Right.
They haven't done that. They've just taken the raw video, the raw live feed of the racing and let the racing do the talking. There's no fake commentary dubbed over it. It's all MotoGP World Feed stuff. It's Matt Burton and Steve Day. There's no weird kind of odd sort of kind of sound design. You know, Drive to Survive does that thing where they like mask the real sound of the car sometimes.
Yeah.
Unlimited doesn't do that. You know, the riders talk in their native language, which caused a weird stir on social media, but it's the best thing for it.
Because I love that. Yes.
You know, it's if the price of readings from subtitles is you get a very authentic, very real reaction to things. You know, the series covered the season pretty much perfectly. There's a couple of things they left out. You know, they didn't really fully explain Honda's problems. They just sort of followed Mark's kind of comeback, which is fair enough to a casual fan. Right. That's fine. You know, you don't really get to see too much of Andrea Dovizioso. He makes an appearance in the background, which is odd if you think there's going to be a second season, and Dovi will probably feature quite a lot because it's Dovi. You know, he's a big name. Right. But you know, other than that, the behind the scenes stuff with Maverick through the whole Yamaha falling out and his Aprilia situation, and you know, it's fantastic. There's a brilliant episode where they're following the Austrian race, but they're following it from Maverick's perspective when he's not in the paddock, when he's been suspended by Yamaha. He sat watching it. You get to see Maverick's response to the race, and then in that you get to see how he is obviously processing everything that's going on, that he feels he deserves to be where Brad Binder is winning races right now, but he's not. You know, the Yamaha situation didn't work out the way it should have. Yeah. It tells the stories that we wanted it to. You know, it makes nobody comes out of it looking all that bad, apart from maybe Ratzlan Razzali. He doesn't come across very well in it, but that's but that's not the series kind of doing that deliberately. That's just they followed him around and shown the situation of that team, and he just doesn't come across very well. But I think people like Maverick will get a new fan base. You see the real Joan Mir. You see, you know, people think, oh, Joan, he's always complaining, he's doing this, but you see the juxtaposition. You see Maverick, the family man. You see Aleix, the family man. You see Aleix, the angry rider. You see the guy behind it. You see Fabio struggles. You see Pecco, how he came up. You see Rossi struggles. If it's done everything it needed to, if it can just get in front of the right people, I think MotoGP Unlimited will be massive for the championship. And the only problem it has, which is more of a UK thing, is that the coverage in this country on television isn't very good. You know, you have the live coverage on BT Sports, but how many? If you think MotoGP Unlimited is like Drive to Survive and then it's aimed at a young young audience, they don't have the money to pay for BT Sports. They don't really watch television. And there's not a good highlights package like there is with Formula One. You know, it's on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Young people like, 18 to 25-year-olds aren't really watching television at 8 p.m. on a Monday night.
So I have no idea what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. I mean, I'm not that young. I mean, I'm young. I'm like 27, but still, I don't know.
So you're only 2 years older than me.
But no, I hear you.
It can do what MotoGP needs it to, and I so hope it does, because the benefits for Formula One have been massive with Drive to Survive, and if even MotoGP can gain a tenth of that, it will be huge.
Well, Christian Horner said about he got in trouble for this, and I know what he was saying. I think people are making maybe it came off cross different over there, but he said it's going to bring a lot of young girls and he didn't mean it. It's way I think the way they try to make it, like, oh my God, he said this, like he's the R. Kelly of the Formula One. But I think he just said it. But it's true though. You have young, good-looking millionaires, not playboys, but they're driving great cars, $1 million cars. They're going 150 miles an hour. They're risking their lives racing. They're not bad-looking guys, and so you put them in front, like girls are automatically gonna be like, oh my God, he races car, and then he drives a Ferrari. Girl, we gotta go. You know what I mean? Of course, it's gonna bring it. I mean, for some reason, women know where the guys with the money are, regardless. I mean, no internet, but the days before internet, they knew where those dudes were. So the fact that there's that racing environment, and Formula One is like, they get helicoptered in, so you're gonna be millionaires. Like I said, these guys are racing. Yeah, they're gonna bring young girls in. I don't know why people are tripping on that.
The thing, what I think MotoGP Unlimited does really well, and it's the thing that I've talked about for a long, long time, is the fact that we don't have like the Lorenzos and the Pedrosas and all that anymore. The guys that had big rivalry and had big mouths, and you have young guys, all of them. The oldest guy in the grid is Aleix at 31, but the rest of them are all under 30, and most of them are 23, 24, 25. They're all nice young guys. They're all nice guys. They're all raised well. They all speak very politely. They're all very down to earth. They're all very humble. And I think in this kind of modern era, we've lived through a pandemic. People don't really want to see, millionaire playboys living in Monaco, getting helicoptered into places. My generation anyway, I don't think we want to see that. We want to see real people, characters that we can relate to. And I think MotoGP Unlimited does a really, really good job of that. People will relate to these riders. And like I say, if they can just promote it properly and get it in front of people, people will see that actually MotoGP is not only a better racing series than Formula One.
Yes.
There's a kind of a genuineness to MotoGP that doesn't really exist in Formula One right now. It's still, I'd take nothing away from Lewis Hamilton. I think he's a fantastic racer. I think he's generally quite a nice guy, but I can't really relate to Lewis Hamilton when you see him in thousands of pounds worth of Tommy Hilfiger clothes at a fashion show in LA with these celebrities. That doesn't really appeal to me. I'm a guy that likes, listen to my Rush records and,
wear a Rush hoodie.
But yeah, playing the place, I'm kind of, I'm not like a flashy kind of guy. And yes, fair enough. These MotoGP riders, they're not short of a few quid. They're not having to worry about when the next meal comes from, but they're all still remarkably very, very humble, and that's very easy to relate to. And I think my generation now, in this kind of modern world that we live in, where we've been through a lot of shit and we're still going through a lot of shit right now, people want just something a bit more wholesome. I don't know if you're, we live in a TikTok generation, and in the UK especially, there's this guy that runs about TikTok, and his whole thing is he gets excited about trains.
Yeah,
he's a train guy, runs about, and he gets really excited because trains come through. It's nothing but nice, wholesome content, and that's what people identify with. So MotoGP has that, and if they could just get it in front of the right generation, I think the series will take off hugely.
I hope so. I mean, because like I said, for me and you, we're the geeks. We're the ones that, no, I want to wait till the last interview possible, and then I want to see that. You know what I mean? That's just me. But for the outside looking in, it's the greatest sport there is, the greatest spectacle.
100%.
And if you're walking through the paddock, when you just said this, it made me think of this, how you can relate. When you see a Moto3 rider on a bicycle doing a wheelie in the paddock, you're going, I can relate to these. They're just kids, man. And that's what I love about it. I don't know how they get down at an F1 paddock, but I just remember watching Celestino Vietti just do a wheelie on a mountain bike, and I go, that's what I love. I love seeing everybody waves, and it's just, man, it's just beautiful to see. And so I hope it does. I hope, have people like Screw here walking on the sidewalk. I hope she watches MotoGP because of that. You know what I mean? I hope she goes, oh, this sport, MotoGP is the great. And that's what I want. So, yeah. Man, damn it, I know we got to wrap it up. God damn, I swear to God, I could talk to you all damn day just about racing. And then we could have another one about rock and roll. Even though we talked about it the last episode, we can still talk about it on this episode.
Just this new Scorpions album out. We need to do a deep dive into that.
Dude, I went to their Instagram and Klaus May was talking about, and I was like, this fucking rocks. Did you hear it?
It's a really good album.
It's a
really fucking great album.
The Scorpions never came off, dude. They never. Winds of change kind of to me, but man, other than that, they still rock. And they never get the credit over here they deserve. They're just as good as anybody out there, bro. I always say the groups that never got the credit they deserve, but they're just as good as the Metallica or whatever, are the Scorpions and the Cult. Those two bands, right off the top of my head, so it's Scorpion and the Cult. I'll put them against anybody, bro. They rock so hard. Had the great front man and Ian Astbury. Here's what I want you to do: get in a car or a motorcycle on a good summer day and listen to Sanctuary, and I guarantee you'll get into 3 digits. And I've had many a ticket listening to Sanctuary.
It's a great stuff.
Listen, man, I have got to go. So you got to give me a one-word answer before I get here. One-word answers. Moto3 champion for 2022.
Oh, Foggia. Moto3 Foggia.
That's so easy, bro. How about the old man Migno? Man, he's as old as me. I got a picture of me and Migno graduating together, high school. He got a trophy and his AARP card at the same day. So I'm gonna say Migno just to stump you. But okay, Foggia, fair. Moto2, 2022 champion.
Acosta.
After all the shit you talked about it. Okay, and GP, 2022 champion.
Mark Marquez.
I love it, brother. Lewis Duncan. Damn it, I love talking to you. I'm so glad you're happy, man. You got your woman in the next room. I know you're gonna go and snuggle and cuddle up and whatever you guys do. I don't even want to know. Anyway, player a melody on your 6th string, my man. Thank you so much for talking to me as always, Lou. I'm glad you're with us, man. Hopefully we'll get to see each other in Austin. We'll go out to eat. Dinner's on Autosport, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait. Thank you very much for having me.
Is there anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, I'm good. Just go and read Autosport. Keep me in a job, please. Thank you very much.
Read Autosport. Go to Twitter. I love about this guy. He has opinions and he stands on them, and that's what I love about you, man. You're not afraid to do that. And I love that about you. Thanks for watching Tales from Gemini. Thank you, Lewis Duncan. Look at L Duncan 666. It's all about the rock and roll, baby. Thank you guys so much. And like I say about this time, you know the word. Peace.